the days of mainstream media, the days of these talk show hosts, nobody gives a about these niggas no more. They're losing relevance. You added the fact that they're woke and they're pushing out this leftist propaganda. This isn't 2002 anymore. It's not gonna work, especially when there's so much alternative media out there that's saying what the people really feel like. You guys love the fact that I tell you guys what it really is. I'm not bought. I'm not owned. I can say what I want to say. But in order for you guys to know what I'm saying is true and what I'm saying is accurate, you need to allow me the ability to debate my counterparts. So as much as I might not like what some of these people have to say, we must fight for their ability to say it. Because when you censor one, then you start to censor all, and you start to get into a slippery slope. I made a tweet about this after Jimmy Kimmel got canceled, okay? And this is how I'm gonna respond to this situation and my thoughts on this, okay? Every conservative needs to read this. We're furious, and we damn well should be. One of ours was gunned down in cold blood. Rest in peace, Charlie. Despite our differences, we stood as one, fiercely defending Charlie and striking back with unrelenting force. In this moment of raw anger and emotion, let's keep two things crystal clear. Number one, we are not the violent ones. We're leagues above the brain-dead leftists who resort to bloodshed because their absurd ideology of pushing 99 genders and pretending women are equals collapses under the slightest scrutiny. They need bullets because their ideas can't survive a debate. Number two, we've always stood for free speech, rising above the temptation to silence our enemies no matter how much they provoke us. That second point is non-negotiable. We've been censored, deplatformed, and thrown in jail for speaking truth. But we don't sink to the left's pathetic level using violence or censorship to shut them down. We're better than that. Take Jimmy Kimmel, for example. That clown's cancellation wasn't about free speech. It was about his abysmal performance, tanking ratings, and TV networks slashing costs on late-night morons that haven't been relevant in decades. Here's the truth. We don't need to censor our enemies. They're already imploding under the weight of their own failures. At this turning point, let's stay focused, stay principled, and let their house of cards collapse. Now, some people don't like that I said this, right? They look at it like, look, why the should we go ahead and extend free speech to these people when they've censored us for so long, right? My point is that to silence the other side is completely antithetical to what Charlie stood for. Charlie embraced debate. Charlie embraced open discussion. Charlie embraced talking to people that you disagree with. This is a big reason why I'm doing the debate with Destiny on Saturday, okay? Me and him disagree on everything, but I think it's going to be a fantastic moment for you guys to see two different ideologies clash, and then you can decide what you think. Because the only way to see the strength of your ideology is to put it through the crucible of debate. That's how things work, okay? And when you don't even allow for people to speak and have ideas clash, well, you don't know the merit of your arguments. So the left, for years, has ran from debate and had been pro-censorship. Why? Because their ideologies don't stand up to scrutiny and reality. 99 genders when we know there's really two. Are equal to men when we know that they're not, right? Saying body positivity is fantastic when we know that from a health standpoint, being fat is unacceptable and not good for your health overall, right? So when you have the truth on your side, you don't need to run from it. That is actually our biggest weapon, is the truth. So why are we going to limit our ability to showcase our strongest asset, our strongest weapon, which is the truth, by not using it in the crucible of debate? Okay? Having a right-wing mindset is like having a loaded gun. You don't know how lethal the gun is until you shoot it, which is the debate, the firefight. Okay? For us to sit here and say, yo, let's cancel these people, let's get rid of them, blah, 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 we are doing what they did. And then, most importantly, they're able to say, look, they silenced me because they're scared. You guys don't get to hear their loony worldview. They had to censor us because they didn't have the truth on their side. We got the truth on our side. We don't need to censor them. They've been themselves up. And let me be explicit about this when it comes to Jimmy Kimmel. They're not getting rid of him because of a distasteful joke. These networks, ABC, NBC, etc., they're run by leftists and liberals. They care about two things. Number one, public sentiment, and then number two, money. And for years, late night talk shows have gone down the drain, okay? They were extremely popular in the 80s and the 90s with David Letterman and Jay Leno, legends like that. Then I think Jimmy Fallon came in, and then Colbert and a couple of these other. But as of recently, these late night talk shows are no longer interesting or cool. They had to cancel one of these guys earlier this year. What was his name? The guy with the glasses? Was it Colbert? But the point is that Bill Maher, all these guys, they're very unlikable. People don't like them. People don't watch them anymore People can't relate to them. These industry standard talk show hosts, these industry standard comedians, Colbert, there you go, boom. Okay, so I was right. These guys are not relevant anymore. And they're losing these networks millions of dollars. Guys, you know how much it costs to have a high production crew to run cameras and audio and everything else like that? We're talking about millions upon millions of dollars to run a show that doesn't generate revenue. So they're trying to cut costs any way that they can because the new media is us, okay? Like me, sitting in my room here, talking to y'all, giving you guys the raw stuff where you guys can interact with me, where you guys see that it's raw, you guys know that it's authentic. I had a real job before this shit, right? You guys get to directly influence the show and get to interact with me. That is the new media now. The days of mainstream media, the days of these talk show hosts, nobody gives a about these niggas no more. They're losing relevance. And you added the fact that they're woke and they're pushing out this leftist propaganda. This isn't 2002 anymore. It's not going to work. Especially when there's so much alternative media out there that's saying what the people really feel like. You guys love the fact that I tell you guys what the it really is. I'm not bought. I'm not owned. I can say what I want to say. But in order for you guys to know what I'm saying is true and what I'm saying is accurate, you need to allow me the ability to debate my counterparts. So as much as I might not like what some of these people have to say, we must fight for their ability to say it. Because when you censor one, then you start to censor all, and you start to get into a slippery slope. Okay? I don't think what Jimmy Kimmel said was that bad. Honestly. It was distasteful, it was rude, it was disrespectful. But in the grand scheme of things, seeing what these other sick are doing, dancing and, doing all this horrible stuff, making fun of Charlie's death, I don't think that was that bad compared to these other idiots. It was still rude and disrespectful, but it's not as bad as these other morons. But again, I don't think that they got rid of him because he was disrespectful. They got rid of him because his TV show sucks, and they need an excuse to get rid of him, just like Colbert. Now that we've addressed the freedom of speech issue, now that we've talked about Jimmy Kimmel not getting canceled because of speech, rather his show sucks, and as a lot of these left-wing nighttime show guys that suck, let's talk about people getting canceled and losing their jobs, right? Now, let me be clear about this. You guys know where I stand with Charlie. Me and him disagree on Israel. We had some discussions. He was supposed to come on the show. Other than Israel, I love Charlie Kirk. I think, we agree on almost everything besides the whole Israel situation. But I do think in general, he was an extremely net positive for America. I think he was great to getting the young people out there to vote. And I respect the man and his legacy. And I've been very, vocal about, going after people that are disrespecting his name, etc. Right? I do think it's important to understand that there are parameters here. Okay? And Charlie would agree with me on this, God rest his soul. Debate is important, even when it's offensive. Okay? Now, these people that were celebrating Charlie's death, right? And, dancing and recording videos, all this other stuff. So, I said, yeah, good. Some of you guys should get fired. Right? And some people said, well, Myron, you're a hypocrite. Because aren't you a free speech person? I am a free speech person. I am. But I also understand that your speech has a limit if it endangers others. Let me explain what I mean by this. If you're a doctor, a nurse, a police officer, someone who is of public trust, you are held to a significantly higher standard than everyone else. Okay? I don't think it's appropriate for you as a medical professional where lives are literally in your hands to be posting on TikTok that you're happy that someone was violently gunned down in front of his family. Because what you're basically insinuating is your political views dictate whether you deserve to die or not. That's a problem. Now, it's one thing if you're a doctor and a lawyer or whatever it may be, and you're saying, I didn't care about Charlie Kirk, I'm glad he's dead. And you say that maybe in front of your friends, family, whatever. You're a sick individual, but fine. You have a right and a freedom of speech to express your feelings. But I also think that you putting it out there on the internet for others to see as you celebrate and showboast the death of a man, a family man, that did nothing to you besides having a different political opinion to you, that shows a wild lack of respect, of humanity, and you're in a position of trust to society. So your freedom of speech is going to be impeded to a degree based on the fact that the public trusts you. And if you're going to go ahead and post that bullshit on the internet, we also have to understand that the internet is powerful, okay? And human beings are human beings. So there's a reason why social media platforms make the like buttons and they make the engagement in a certain way, because whenever you get a notification or you get comments on your stuff, it triggers a certain dopamine hit in your brain. where you're like, oh, I like this, I want more of it. So what ends up happening is we saw a couple of sick individuals post celebrating that Charlie Kirk was tragically assassinated. Instead of them getting shit on and saying, oh, let me stop doing this because they got shamed, what ended up happening was more and more people started posting it. Did you guys notice that the disrespectful videos started increasing? Right? They went viral and they started increasing and people started doing more. So what ended up happening was you got people perpetuating this mindset of not only did a person get tragically murdered, violently murdered for a political view, now we're going to celebrate it and we're going to spread it all across the internet. Guess what that is? That's incitement to violence. Okay? That's incitement to violence because now it's getting spread on a grand scale. And since it's getting spread on a grand scale, it might embolden someone to do it again. Some of you might say, Myron, what do you mean by that? We don't agree with you. That's not true. What do you mean it's going to embolden them? Oh, really? Let's fast forward to the beginning of this year, late last year. Some guy named Luigi walks up, shoots a healthcare guy, a CEO, in the back of the head multiple times, kills him in cold blood after stalking him. Normal people condemned it. Why'd you kill him? But a bunch of crazy and leftists, what did they do? Yeah, finally, someone's talking about this problem of health insurance in America. He became a legend. He went ahead and garnered $1 million plus on his GoFundMe. Women are lining up outside of his court hearings to see him. He just got his terrorism charges dropped. People cheered in the courtroom, going nuts. It's like a sporting event. You're telling me that that's not going to incite people to want to go ahead and take political assassinations like that in the future? Let me tell you guys a dirty little secret. Why do you guys know Ted Bundy? Why do you guys know the Night Stalker? Why do you guys know Jeffrey Dahmer? Why do you guys know John Wayne Gacy? Why do you guys know Samuel Little? I don't even need to tell you who these individuals are. You know who they are, don't you? You know that they're prolific serial killers. I don't even have to tell you what they did. You know who they are. When I said Ted Bundy, you guys know what time it is. So we need to have a really deep discussion and a real discussion on how people can absolutely be encouraged to conduct violent acts for fame and clout. And as a matter of fact, a big reason why serial killers don't get pushed in the news like they used to is because they become famous. You guys think that serial killing stopped? No, it didn't stop. Media companies realize that these guys do this stuff so they can get famous. They love the rush. They love the people paying attention to them. Serial killing didn't stop. Still going on. It's just that the media doesn't push it as much. You guys want to know when they made this huge change? I'll tell you when, and I remember vividly. Go back in time, 2013. A bomb goes off at the finish line in Boston, Massachusetts. After several days of investigation, the FBI and Boston Police Department and Massachusetts State Police identify the two bombers, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev and his brother Tamerlan Tsarnaev, the Boston Marathon bombers. After the brother was killed in a chase with the police, Dzhokhar was caught by the cops. After he was caught by the cops, I'll never forget this. Rolling Stone put out a magazine cover with Tsarnaev on the cover, and I'll show it to you real fast so you guys know what I'm talking about here. Right here, right? You guys remember this? This was the turning point. Because after they published this, the Rolling Stone got a lot of heat. And media companies ever since stopped making these guys rock stars. It started in the serial killer era in 1970s, and then it went and stopped for a bit in 2013 after they published this stuff with Rolling Stone. So the media basically was told, yo, you got to stop making these guys look cool. Right? Because now they're becoming famous and immortalized. That all went out the window with Luigi Mangione. So why am I telling you guys all this? I'm telling you guys this to understand that when you have people on the internet inciting violence, and some of them become famous for doing said violence, it's going to encourage others to do said violence. Okay? And we had the most recent example of this with Luigi Mangione. And he's a rock star till now. He gets thousands of letters from women. Okay? Thousands of letters. And if Karen Reed got found guilty, she would have been another one that would have been a rock star. So I think there's a big difference between freedom of speech and inciting violence. and especially inciting violence if you're an individual in a public trust position. Unfortunately, since you have public trust, you don't have the same level of freedom of speech as others, unfortunately. I'm all for the First Amendment. I'm all for freedom of speech. But if you're going to be a doctor responsible for saving someone's life, and you're over here cheering for someone dying because they have different political views than you, I would argue that's a threat to all of us. That's a threat to everybody. And this goes the other way around too. Let me be clear about this, okay? If it was a conservative that was excited because let's say those 2 Democrats got killed in the Midwest, and he was a doctor, he should be held accountable too. This is not just a crazy leftist problem. If we got violent conservatives that are over here celebrating the death of Democrats, that's a problem as well. We need these people to be as unbiased as possible when it comes to doing their job. Cops, doctors, EMTs, etc. All right? That's what it is. So yes, your freedom of speech becomes impeded once you become a public servant and you have public trust. You owe that to the society. When I was an agent, guys, you guys want to know something funny? When I was an agent, I didn't follow politics whatsoever. Number 1, the Hatch Act, so it didn't matter. Number 2, it doesn't benefit you to be involved in politics and be a federal agent. If anything, it only hurts you. I didn't vote. I didn't give a when I was an agent. I just did my job and stayed away from politics. It's actually better to stay out of politics when you're involved in these jobs, if I'm being honest with you guys. So again, I want to be clear about this. It's a slippery slope, and we want to make sure that we're not censoring people on the left because of their political views and go and become just like them. Our views can stand the crucible debate. Theirs can't. Don't give them the opportunity to make an excuse and say, look, they're not letting us talk. We don't censor them. But at the same time, these people that are in positions of power or positions of trust, celebrating the death of someone because of their political views, yeah, I don't feel sorry for them losing their jobs. You want to privately celebrate with your family? Fine. But putting it on TikTok and putting it on the internet, that just shows a gross lack of regard, and it shows that you have no common sense and you're an idiot. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. If you guys agree, disagree. I don't think that canceling people for speech is good. I think it sets a very bad precedent. But Jimmy Kimmel is not no free speech martyr at all. I agree with Piers Morgan on that. He's not at all. His show just sucks, and they're making it look that way, that he got banned because of free speech. But reality is, he got banned because he sucks.